Premier League preview, and let's just say, man, it's going to be interesting, over this next weekend. I think the next few weeks for football is gonna be good. But yeah, listen, Premier League preview, and listen, we got some things to get into, guys. Because obviously opening fixtures coming out, and yeah, listen, football's back, man, and I, for one, definitely looking forward to it. And you know what? I think right now, as it stands, I think it's probably going to be, one of the most interesting leagues for a while, because I think, as I said, those top 10 positions for me, yeah, it's going to be tense, man. Big up to all the mods, big up to Lumi, big up to Sham, big up to Jay, and big up to Chris and Mark for coming through as well. Yeah, listen, guys, morning to everyone, yeah, big up Lumi for the poll. Yeah, listen, if anyone hasn't seen the poll, make sure you guys check it out, and make sure you give me your vote and your comments in there afterwards as well. So, bit of a funny one, and as I said, Lumi's obviously laughing, so yeah, that probably kind of gives it away. So, yeah, guys, if you get a chance, check out the poll, give a vote, and let me know what you think. And as always as well, make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here, and make sure you smash the like button as well. And guys, also check out my other posts as well. So there's quite a few posts on there. So yeah, give me your comments in there, and obviously give me your vote as well. So again, Premier League preview, guys. Shaping up to be a very good season. Big up to Barbara Joseph each and every time as well. So yeah, we got a few things to get into, and as always, guys, keep your comments coming in. Keep your questions coming in. I will try and do my best to get back to each and every one of your comments. But again, when there's stuff to discuss, I might be sidetracked, and I might miss your comments or your chats. But as I said, keep it coming in, and big up to yourselves as well. Yeah, listen, Chris and Mark said about Spurs yesterday. Yeah, listen, I watched the game. To be fair, Tottenham played very well, and I think the substitutions kind of, I think they kind of killed Tottenham, and I mean, to think that PSG came back and actually won it in the end, that was never on the cards. And again, football's a crazy game, man. So it's one of them things where until that final whistle's blown, anything can happen. So yeah, you have to big up PSG, man, because they're champions for a reason, and the way they came back. Again, I think a lot of it was on Tottenham's doing, the substitutions, taking off Kudus, Richarlison, and João Paulinho, I think is what changed the game for them. And again, PSG running out winners on penalties in the end. So Tottenham must be kicking themselves, but I think there's a lot of positive signs for Tottenham going into the season. And again, I've just seen some more news that they're looking to make Eze one of their signings of the summer. So yeah, listen, they're gonna make some deals done, definitely. So they're gonna have a good season. I can just see it. But they'll be kicking themselves, and again, PSG, man, proving why they're the team to beat. Which is why Chelsea beating them the way they did just shows you how tough of a team they are, really, because they've won literally everything this season, and Chelsea the only team to stop them from literally completing a full clean sweep. So yeah, but guys, listen, we're gonna get into it anyway. Premier League preview. So obviously starting off on Friday, champions Liverpool going up against Bournemouth. If we touch on Bournemouth just first, and again, let me know your questions and your comments, and I say I'll discuss what I'm going to discuss for each team. Then I will try and get back to your questions and comments. So for me, Bournemouth, losing Dean Howson to Real Madrid, just recently losing Ilya Zabani to PSG. Again, didn't play yesterday. Who else they got that moved on? I think that was it. I think Dango Utara might be going to Brentford as well. So again, they've lost, their two starting centre-backs. But the thing is, Iraola, I like him as a manager, to be fair. I think he's one of the best up-and-coming managers in the league for sure. And I think with someone like him, they're always going to play a brand of football, which is going to be interesting, you know. I think losing the two centre-backs is going to be a bit of an issue, you know, because if you look at them two centre-backs there, they're probably two of the best young centre-backs in Europe, you would say. Hence why both of them have gone to two of the biggest clubs in the world. They brought in, I think it was Bafode Diakite. Haven't seen much of him, but obviously they've probably brought him in with the view to him of at least plugging the hole from those two centre-backs leaving. You look at Antoine Semenyo, you know, who's probably their most efficient attacker, you know, and again, he's signed a new contract. So I think that, you know, a lot will be expected of him this season. Evan Nilsson, you know, I thought he had a good season last year, but I think he's going to need to go up one level if Bournemouth are going to do anything this season. And then you've got the likes of Philip Billing. You know, he's come back from loan at Napoli. I think he's actually a good technician. You know, I think he's a good player, number 10. You know, I think he'll add a lot of creativity to their team. Then you've got Tyler, what's his name? Tyler Adams in midfield, Ryan Christie, you know, Alex Scott as well. You know, some very good players there. Marcus Tavernier on out wide. I like Dango Utara, but if he goes to Brentford, you know, are they going to go in the market and replace him? So, yeah, as I said, man, I think they have got the basis of a good team. You know, are they going to make any more signings? I mean, nothing's been... I mean, oh, sorry, they're looking at Amin Adli. And Amin Adli from Bayer Leverkusen is a very good player. So I think they're probably looking at Amin Adli as someone that can replace if Utara goes to Brentford. So, but I believe under this manager, they're going to be all right. I don't see them being in a relegation battle. I think the football they play, the manager, some of the players they have as well, I think they're going to be all right. So, yeah, I see them having a... I'll probably say Bournemouth might have a mid-table finish, you know, because I think this top 10 is going to be difficult to predict. So I think Bournemouth, if they finish just below mid-table, you know, I think that's still a decent season because, again, they've lost their two starting centre-backs, you know, so it's going to be a bit of not a struggle, but a bit of an adjustment. And, again, they're going to need their attackers to kind of step up, but... yeah, I think they'll be all right. So, yeah, and I think I say under that manager, I think he's a very good manager. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But moving on to Liverpool, as we know, Liverpool, you know, the current champions, you know, they'll be looking to defend the title. You know, they'll be looking to win back-to-back. And again, if they win back-to-back, I think that takes them one ahead of Man United in terms of the most league titles. So that'll be something that'll be on their, something as a focus. You know, obviously the signings they've brought in, Jeremy Frimpong, Milos Kerkez, obviously Florian Wirtz, British transfer record, Hugo Ekitike, and of course they're trying to get in Alexander Isak. So for me, a strong window. And again, getting the likes of Darwin Núñez out, you know, Luis Diaz going to Bayern Munich, you know, they're still trying to get a few more players in, you know, looking at Mark Guehi, but it's looking like Mark Guehi will be staying at Liverpool. I mean, at Crystal Palace, sorry. Konate, there's been rumours of Konate moving on, but I think Konate stays. You know, I don't think Konate goes on a free transfer. I don't think Liverpool would allow that to happen. I think whatever contract he's asking for, I can see Liverpool coming to a compromise for me. Because, again, his partnership with Van Dijk is key. But they definitely do need to bring in another defender. So whether they, you know, go and get someone else, you know, or they make Palace an offer that they can't refuse for Guehi, remains to be seen. But I definitely do think that this season, Liverpool, they are going to be, I believe, one of the teams to beat this season. And as I said, I think it's one of them things where Man City, for me, possibly Chelsea are going to be their closest competitors. But I think Liverpool this season, you know, I mean, if you look at Liverpool's team, you know, I'll keep saying this as well. You know, Liverpool if they change to a three at the back, you know, if they get another defender in, I think that makes Liverpool even more dangerous because You've got Jeremy Frimpong, as we know, is a wing back. Milos Kerkez can play as a wing back, no problem. And if you can get two players that have got pace around Virgil van Dijk and you've got his leadership, you got Konate one side. If you go and get a left-footed centre-back, or if you go and get a Guehi that can play either side of Van Dijk, you got Allison, who's one of the world's best goalkeepers in goal. A midfield two of Gravenberch and McAllister. Florian Wirtz floating in that number 10, or he can play from the left, but having a free role. Mo Salah on the right, close to goal, and Ekatike. And if they get an Isak, I would say that makes Liverpool even more dangerous, But I think definitely this season, they'll be one of the teams to beat. Do I see Liverpool winning back-to-back titles? I have to be honest, 50-50, I would say. And that's because Man City. I think Man City, as we've spoken about already, if they get a certain Rodrigo through the door, I think they're going to have a big say in this title race. Chelsea as well. I think it's going to be a massive season for so many teams. But I think as it stands right now, I'm going to say Liverpool are the slight favourites. But again, until this window's shut, anything can change, But I think at this moment, new man, obviously with Arne Slot, obviously another season, with the squad he's got, I think things are looking promising for Liverpool. And I definitely do think they'll be one of the teams to beat. So how I see this game going, Liverpool, Bournemouth, I think you'd have to say Liverpool at home. I'm gonna go Liverpool at home, that crowd behind them, first game of the season. I'm gonna say 3-1 Liverpool. I think 3-1's quite a fair result. I don't think Bournemouth get blown away, because I think Andoni Iraola will try and set them up to be a bit more defensive, a bit more probably pragmatic in their approach going away from home. But I do expect Liverpool to win the game after their disappointment in the Community Shield. And I think, as I said, with that crowd behind them, and obviously a lot of the new signings will be playing as well. I expect them to win the game. But I'm gonna say 3-1 Liverpool. I think that's quite a fair result, to be honest. But guys, let me know what you think in the chat. And as I said, I'm gonna go through each fixture, and then I'm gonna get back to your chat after. But big up yourselves for coming through, guys. There's 67 of you watching and only 7 likes. Again, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you smash the like button, and again, make sure you sub to the channel as well if you're new in here. But big up yourselves and keep your questions and comments coming through. Big up. So next game, obviously Saturday fixtures now. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. For me, Aston Villa, I'm not quite sure what season Villa are going to have, to be honest with you. I think Aston Villa, they haven't really made any eye-catching signings for me. I know they signed Evan N'Guessan from Nice, striker to compete with Ollie Watkins. They signed a young striker from Feyenoord as well, Zepekino Redmond. They're trying to look. I think they're looking at trying to get what's his name, Marco Asensio. I think they're trying to look at getting him back on loan. And again, he'll add a creativity to their team. I think with Villa, for me, I know they're missing out on Champions League football, but I haven't really seen them make any eye-catching signing. I look at the basis of their team, and to be fair, their team is quite a solid team. You look at Martinez is still there in goal, and obviously there's been rumours about him falling out with Unai Emery. But again, if they keep him, get him on side, you've got one of the best keepers in the world in Martinez. The back four, you've got Matty Cash at right back, again, former winger. I think attacking wise, he's not too bad. Defensively, he's a bit hit and miss for me. You got him. You've got Ezri Konsa, who I'm a massive fan of. I think Konsa is one of England's best defenders. Then you've got the likes of what's his name, Pau Torres. Cultured left-footed centre back, and that left back you got Lucas Digne, just signed a new contract, and you got Ian Matson. So I think defensively, they're quite stocked defensively, and I think moving forwards, I think they'll be all right. Again, midfield, you've got Yuri Tillemans, you've got Boubacar Kamara. Amadou Onana. I think that quartet there, is very good. I think they're some of the best midfielders in the league, or the better midfielders in the league. You got John McGinn, again, was subject of interest from, was it Newcastle or Nottingham Forest that were looking at him? I think, again, he's their captain, and he'll be someone that they'll be looking at to, take them forwards as well. I think where they have a problem is out wide. I think Jacob Ramsey's actually going to Newcastle for 40 million, obviously coming through the youth. I think if they're moving him on, they must be trying to get someone else in, because I look at their wide options. I think Leon Bailey's been subject of interest as well from Roma. So they're the only wide players they've got, really, and that I can think of, and yeah, I think they must be looking at getting some more players in through the window, because they haven't really got any wide players, really. You got, for me, arguably one of their best players. I think he's one of the best players in the league, Morgan Rogers. I think he's a top player. As we know, he's come through Man City's academy. Obviously was at Middlesbrough as well. But I think he's a top player, and they've managed to keep him. Again, he's someone that can play in the wide areas, but I think number 10 centrally is where he thrives. And then obviously they've signed Evan and Gessan, Ollie Watkins. They're going to need to bring in some reinforcements before the season, before the transfer window shuts. But if they're looking at getting rid of Ramsey and Leon Bailey, they must at least be looking at bringing in at least 2 players, and I think that's definitely going to happen for me. Yeah, Newcastle, as we know, obviously their news has been dominated by Alexander Isak. And as I said, I'm still going to say Isak stays at Newcastle, because, as I keep saying, Isak holds all the cards. I mean, Newcastle hold all the cards. He's got 3 years left on his contract. They've got money, and they're not forced to sell him, really. I know Isak has made it quite clear he wants to move on, but I don't believe that Newcastle would be pressurised into selling him. And I think if Newcastle do sell Isak, I think that would be deemed as a terms of weakness on Newcastle's part, because, as I said, they've given him the platform in the Premier League to definitely succeed, And obviously, if you look at Isak now, he's definitely regarded as one of the best strikers in Europe, for what he's done at Newcastle. And the relationship he has with the Newcastle fans, it is surprising that he's actually angling for a move, because they're in the Champions League. They would be willing to make him their highest earner. But again, it's looking like he's burnt his bridges at Newcastle. But I still think he stays there somehow, because, as I said, I think if Newcastle do sell him, I think that's a sign of weakness on their part. But who knows what happens? Unless Liverpool come in with that 150 bid. Again, Newcastle might turn it down. Unless Liverpool come in with that bid, I think at this moment in time, I'd say he's more leaning towards staying at Newcastle than going to Liverpool. And if it's a case where he's unhappy, Newcastle might look at, banishing him to the reserves. Who knows? But I look at their team now, Newcastle. Again, they brought in Anthony Elanga, which, again, for 55 million is a lot of money. But he does actually suit the way that they want to play, especially on the counter-attack with his pace. They've got Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy in the wide areas. They definitely need to go and get a striker, whether Isak stays or not. Again, they've been linked to Johan Visser, which is proven difficult to get him out of Brentford at the moment, even though I do think that does get over the line. And then, obviously, they've been linked to Samuel Omarodian as well. Nicholas Jackson. If Isak does end up going and they get 2 strikers, whether it's Jackson, Omarodian, Visser, out of them 3, and they get 2 of them, and they get 150 for Isak, even though it'd be a big blow to lose Isak, but you have to look at that and think, you know what, it ain't too bad, because if you're getting 150, you can go and spend that on other parts of the team, and you're getting 2 strikers in, someone in Visser, that has shown he can score between 19 and 20 league goals. Nicholas Jackson, as I said, I think on average he gets like 14 or 15 goals in the league. And then you got Omarodian, who's a target man striker, and he could bring something different to Newcastle. So again, that's one to watch. That's one to watch. But I look at the rest of their team. You know, they brought in Malik Tior as well from AC Milan. He's going to provide some pace and some strength to that back line. You know, but you look at their midfield of Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton. You know, that's probably one of the best three in the league. I think I'm very surprised they haven't at least gone for another midfielder, maybe someone a bit more creative to play in a 10 if they want to change their team from being a 3 to playing, you know, if they're at home to go into a 4-2-3-1 with a number 10. So I'm quite surprised they haven't gone for a player like that, you know. But again, as I mentioned, they were linked to Carlos Baleba, which again for me, you know, he's only going one place and that's United, and hopefully so. So yeah, they got a good team, man. But I think Aston Villa, Newcastle, for me, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that's a draw. I think Villa at home, you know, in front of their crowd, you know, they're going to want to try and put an impression, make an impression for them. Newcastle, again, you know, they're going to be wanting to try and make a statement this season, Champions League football as well. But I think a draw is a fair result. You know, I'm going to say a draw. So I'm going to say a 1-1 draw, Newcastle and Aston Villa, purely because I don't think both teams will be wanting to give much away. So yeah, I think 1-1 draw will be fine, will be fair. Does Isak play? He doesn't play for me. You know, Isak's definitely not going to be in the squad. So again, it's going to be a case where Newcastle are going to have a decision to make. And as I said, I think for me, yeah, I think 1-1 draw is fair, you know. But again, let me know what you think, guys. Do you think Newcastle might nick it, or do you think Aston Villa, you know, might get a home victory? What do you reckon? Because I think it's going to be a tough game for both teams, but I think a draw is probably a fair result for me, you know. Moving on, Brighton versus Fulham. You know, just spoke about a certain Carlos Baleba. I'm praying Baleba, there's some movement on him this week. Again, I don't expect Baleba to be in the squad for Man United because, again, the game is on, Sunday? So he's got a couple of days to get in some training with the squad if it was to happen, which I don't see. Again, United have still got to agree a fee with Brighton. You know, I think, obviously, in terms of the personal terms, that'll be easy to kind of get over the line. But agreeing a fee is what might be a bit difficult. But for me, I like Brighton as a footballing team. You know, I know they've lost João Pedro, which would be a big miss to them. But again, they've still got the likes of Danny Welbeck, you know, who's very underrated for me. You know, they've got Kaoru Mitoma as well. I think Buonanotte, who was on loan at Leicester City last season. I think he might be going to Borussia Dortmund. I thought he might have been someone they might bring in. Julio Enciso as well. He was on loan at Ipswich. And again, it's mad what's happened to Enciso because Enciso was someone that had a lot of promise, man. And he was looking like being one of the best young talents in the league. You know, they gave him the number 10 shirt as well. So maybe he might be included back into the squad and see what he can do. Evan Ferguson, again, was on loan. He's now moved to Roma on loan. Baleba for me in midfield, again, hopefully United do get him. But I think Brighton under their manager, you know, Fabian Herzler, I think they'll be all right. I think that Estupinian will be a big miss for them, you know. But as we know with Brighton, their recruitment policy is crazy. It's probably one of the best recruitment policies, I would have to say, in the world. You know, the way that they just bring in players and sell them for profit, for massive money. So I have no doubt that players that they move on, they've got the next one coming through. There was a player called Valentin Barco, actually, that they bought from Argentina. I think he's actually moved on. But he's someone that, for me, they were looking at him as, you know, as having a lot of promise. But I see the other day he's been moved on. I think they've actually sold him. So, but yeah, I think Brighton for me will be a very solid team this season. Yeah, big up to Sham, man. As I said, I think for me, they're going to be all right on this manager. I think their aim this season will probably be top 10. You know, I think if they lose Baleba, I think that's a massive, massive loss to their team. You know, but again, they've got players that they just bring in anyway. And even though losing Beleb will be massive for them, you fully expect them to bring in some players that will plug the hole that's been left there, which will be a massive hole if they leave him, if he does leave them. Moving on to Fulham. Again, Fulham looking at selling Rodrigo Muniz to Atalanta to replace Matteo Retegui. And, I think Muniz is actually quite a good striker. He's aggressive, he's good in the air. He's got a good touch. He can threaten in behind as well. And again, he has shown he can score goals in this league. So I think them letting him go might be a problem, because unless they're going to bring someone in directly, you've got Raul Jimenez still there. But I think they're definitely going to need to get another striker in if they do lose Rodrigo Muniz. Again, if he does want to move on, then they're going to have to replace him. But I'm actually shocked that they're actually willing to let him go. But I look at their team now. You've got Alex Iwobi. You've got Adama Traore. They've got pace and strength in the wide areas. They're looking at getting Kevin from Shakhtar Donetsk, who I've seen him play quite a few times. And to be fair, he looks good. He looks very good. So they're trying to get him in as well, looking to break their transfer record as well. At the back, you've got Joachim Anderson, very good defender. They've got, what's his name? Calvin Bassey, I think is a very good defender. Aggressive, physical as well. He's got pace. Anthony Robinson, probably one of the best left backs in the league. Timothy Castagna, Kenny Tete coming back as well. Bernd Leno in goal. They've got a good team. They've got a decent team. I think for me, them breaking into the top 10, top 8 is going to be difficult, especially if they lose someone like a Muniz as well. I think if they add more quality to their team, maybe they might be thinking top 10 is a realistic target. But as I keep saying, this top 10 is going to be difficult, because I think the top 5, top 6 are probably more or less nailed on. So I think it's going to be difficult. But Brighton versus Fulham at home. Brighton at home. Again, I think if they lose Baleba, I think that might be before that game. I think you might see a bit of a disappointment in the fan base for them. But I think first game of the season, it's tough, because Marco Silva, I like him as a manager for Fulham. I think 1-0 Brighton, I think I'm going to say. I think Brighton 1-0 at home. I'm gonna say that. And then obviously the following week, Fulham at home against a certain Manchester United. So yeah, but I'm gonna say Brighton 1-0. I think Brighton at home, I think they'll nick it 1-0 for me. Sunderland, West Ham. Sunderland have made some signings. Obviously, they just made Granit Xhaka their captain, which I'm a bit surprised at. But then again, Xhaka is captain material. But I think sometimes when you're bringing in a player that's just come in and making them captain, sometimes that might upset the dressing room that's already there. But again, Xhaka's probably made a massive impression since he's gone there, which is why they've thought to give him the captaincy, But they've made some good signings, man. They've signed Simon Adingra from Brighton. I think he's a very good player. Ivory Coast international. He's going to give them a lot of pace options on the flank, trickery, pace, and he's someone that wants to try and get in behind, the defence at all times. So I think he'd be a good signing. They signed Reinildo from Atletico Madrid, experience, Champions League experience. And they've signed a couple of players. I think, is it Hugo Diarra? Habib Diarra in midfield. So I think they're making an impression to try and stay in this league. I think it's hard to say, because I think all the teams coming up from the Championship, I think the gap is that big now. I'm always going to say the teams coming up, I think are likely to go down. But I think the way they've spent their money, it's one of them things, we can't literally put money on it, because they're actually showing that they want to stay in this league. So yeah, I think they made a good impression. As I said, Granit Xhaka's know-how as well. I think that'll be massive. First game of the season at home. Again, Sunderland are a massive club in the northeast, and they're actually a Premier League club as well. So it'd be good to see them staying in the league. But I think I have to stick to what I'm saying. I think the three teams that are coming up, I wouldn't be surprised if those teams go back down, because I think the gap between the Championship teams and the Premier League is getting bigger and bigger for me. So, but I do think Sunderland will have a decent season, but I'm just not sure yet if they stay up, you know. And then West Ham, obviously Paqueta, one of their key players, getting off with the charges. I think they got Jared Bowen for me. I think Jared Bowen is probably one of the most underrated players in the league. I think Jared Bowen can go and play for a top six team easily and hold his own. Obviously he's their captain, and I think with Jared Bowen, I don't see any reason for him leaving West Ham, really. He's their captain. He's probably their best player, along with Paqueta. Again, he's regarded highly there. He's got everything there, really, that he doesn't need to go and find elsewhere. So, yeah, I think he's going to be key. Paqueta is going to be key. I like Graham Potter as a manager. I think Graham Potter is a very good coach. And I think with the way he might set them up, I think he might set them up in a three, with Max Kilman, Jean-Claire Todibo, and possibly Naif Agard as well. I think that's not a bad three. Obviously, again, it can be improved. You've got Mavropanos as well that can back that up, Wan-Bissaka as a right wing back. I think he'll be very good as a right wing back. And then you've got Emerson Palmieri as the left wing back. And let's not forget as well, you've got the new signing in, what's his name? El Hadj Malik Diouf. I think he's going to be a very good player for them. I saw him play for Senegal up against England in the friendly. And he literally was giving England problems all game. So I think he'll be a massive plus for them. The things as well, I wonder if he starts, because you never know. They could play Palmieri, left-sided centre-back, and have Diouf as the left wing-back. I think bringing in Diouf, I think, how much did he cost? About 30 mil, I think, or something like that. I think he'll be looking to start. Midfield, they've got Ward-Prowse, Souček. What's his name in midfield? I forgot his name. Guido Rodriguez. Got him as well. Edson Alvarez. They got some decent midfielders. Paqueta, for me, is one of their best players. Nicholas Füllkrug as well. Callum Wilson coming through the door. They have got some decent players, but I think losing Kudus will be a massive miss. But I think West Ham will be, I think, if we're being honest, I think a bottom half finish is probably where they're going to end up. I can't see them making top half. I think losing Kudus, not really investing into that first team, you would say, as much as what the fans probably would look at. I think a bottom half finish might happen. I don't think they get relegated, but I think bottom half finish, probably look at that as a decent season for them. But I think a lot of it is going to be dependent on Jared Bowen, Lucas Paqueta for me, And can Füllkrug get goals? You've got Callum Wilson as there with his experience to help that. But yeah, one to watch. But I'm gonna say first game of the season, Sunderland coming up from Championship. I'm gonna go 2-2 draw. I'm gonna go 2-2 draw with West Ham. I think if West Ham were at home, I might go for a narrow West Ham win. But I think 2-2 draw, I'm gonna say. But again, let me know, guys, what you guys think. And as I said, I will definitely get back to you guys once I've gone through each team. Next game, Tottenham versus Burnley. Obviously, spoke about Tottenham earlier. The fact they got beat on penalties by PSG, which I think you have to be honest. The fact that they will 2-0 up, and let that lead slip and got beat in the end on penalties. I think it's going to be it's a massive blow, obviously, to Tottenham. But I think Tottenham will do well this season. I think under Thomas Frank, some of the players they've brought in and are looking to bring in, as I said, if they bring in Eze and they bring in Savinho, I'll go as far and say I think Tottenham can be within the top four shout, because I look at the basis of their team and what they done against PSG yesterday, who are the best team in the world right now. You know, they gave PSG problems, you know, and again, the lineup they had, you think that they're missing, they didn't play Destiny Udoji, didn't play. You think of Basuma didn't play, Kulusevski, Madison's out injured, Bergvall was on the bench, Solanke was on the bench. You know, who else was there? I think there's one more player that didn't play. Obviously, they bring in Savinho, they bring in Eze. You know, that's 8 players there that didn't really play or come off the bench that can go into their lineup. So that makes their squad stronger. You know, so as I said, I think Tottenham are going to do well this season. But as I said, a lot of it depends on if they can get Eze and Savinho through the door. And I think if they do that with the squad they've got already, I think definitely, yeah, they can definitely fancy themselves as being a team that needs to be respected this season for me, you know. And again, man, I think a top 4 finish, they get those 2 in, I don't think that's out of the question. I don't. Big up to Exedra. Big up, bro. Guys, come on. We've got 23 of you in at the moment. 13 likes. Again, if you're in... 32, sorry, of you in at the moment. If you're enjoying the stream, okay, make sure you smash the like button. Obviously, make sure you sub to the channel as well if you're new in here. Again, guys, just one press of the button helps the channel to be seen by more people. So, yeah, just smash that button, guys, and help the channel to grow. Let's try and hit at least 20 as a minimum target, guys, you know. But big up yourselves as well for coming through. So, yeah, Tottenham, for me, I think they'll be looking at having a strong season. And as I said, you know, you think of João Palhinha, sorry, as well, another player I forgot that's come through the door. I think they're going to be good this season. I'll be very surprised if they don't finish in the top half. I think top half's a minimum for them, you know, with the investment that they've done this season so far, and you'd expect them to do as well going forwards. For me, Burnley, again, another team coming up from the Championship. I think their defensive record in the Championship, I think, was one of the best, if not the best in the Championship record, if not in the league. But I think, obviously, coming to the Premier League, it's going to be a lot different, as we know. You know, better quality in the Premier League. I like Scott Parker as a manager. I think he's good. You know, they've made a couple of signings as well this season. I think their objective for this season is to try and stay in the league. You know, and I think they're going to have to lean on that defensive record to try and get over the line. But they have got some good players. They've got Marcus Edwards. Again, Marcus Edwards, formerly of Tottenham, youngster. Obviously, was on loan at Sporting. Was at Sporting Lisbon. You know, they've got some players that have played in this league before as well, so they'll know what it's all about. So yeah, as I said, man, I think definitely they'll be looking to rely on that defensive record and try and nick games, especially at home. You know, but I think it's going to be a tough season for them. And I think at home, away from home against Tottenham, I expect Tottenham to win. I think Tottenham actually win this game. I'm going to say 2-0, 3-0. I think that's not impossible to say. I think 2 or 3-0. You know, I think Tottenham fans will definitely be looking at something like that as the first game of the season at home. You know, with the new signings as well. You know, Mohamed Kudus, another guy that's coming. You know, I think definitely 3-0, 2-3-0. Tottenham should be looking at as a statement for the first game of the season. You know, and as I said, I think they'll be looking at that strongly. You know, I think if Tottenham draw the game, I think that's poor. I think definitely being at home, they should definitely be looking at that as a minimum. You know. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think. I say Tottenham, Burnley. I think most of you will be saying Tottenham win. But again, some of you might be surprising and say, you know, Burnley might get a draw or even win. But I think Tottenham definitely at home, especially with what they showed against PSG. No doubt that Tottenham win this game for me, because I think that the fact that they got beat on penalties by PSG, a lot of it was down to substitutions. So yeah, I'm gonna say Tottenham win for me, 100%. Moving on, Wolves versus Man City. Again, Wolves for me. It's gonna be tough, man. Obviously, they lost their best two players in Ait Nouri and Matthias Cunha to Man United and Man City. You know, it's gonna be a tough season for them, I believe. You know, I think their manager is actually quite a good manager, but losing those two players in the same window, you know, is gonna be hard to deal with. You know, they have got Strand Larson, who showed last season that he can score some goals in this league. But I can't actually remember who they've actually replaced those two players with. But I'm going to say they're going to have a struggle of a season. I think bottom half, are they going to get relegated? Um, I don't know if they get relegated. You know, they might just survive it, you know, but it's going to be a hard season for them, you know, because when you're losing two players of that quality, you know, that will damage any team. I think their two midfielders, Andre and João Gomez, I think they're going to be pivotal to their season. You know, can they keep those two fit and let that combination, their partnership, flourish again? But it's going to be a struggle for them. You know, they have got players in there that can do things on their day, but it's going to be a struggle. You know, so yeah. But I think they might just survive this season. I don't think they get relegated. I think they might just survive, but it's going to be an up and down season for me, for them. You know, and then Man City, as we know, Ryan Ait Nouri playing against his former club. You know, they brought in Tajani Reinders. For me, he's one of the best midfielders in the world. Ryan Cherky, as we know, for me, is a future Ballon d'Or contender. You know, and again, City being away from home, I don't see any problems here. I think they're going to be making a statement in the first game of the season. You know, can they get Rodrigo over the line? I don't think they get him over the line before the first game of the season. I think, as I said, if they sell Savinho, I think they start the talks with Rodrigo. But I don't think he's there for the first game of the season. But who knows? He could be there for the Manchester derby. So, which is what, the fourth week of the season. So yeah, I think it's one to watch, man, definitely. But I think that I don't see no problem for City. You know, I think with the players they've added, Pep's going to be on the mission as well. And I think first game of the season, I'm going to say away from home, 2-0 City. I don't think they batter Wolves. I don't think they batter them, probably because Wolves are at home. I think if City were at home, I'd say City could win that comfortably. 3-4-0 I would go for, as much as that. But I think away from home, you know, clean sheet, 2-0, good victory, I think, you know. Yeah, I think that'll be the result. Again, City could win it 3-0, 3-1, who knows? But I'm going to say 2-0. City will win first game of the season. And as I said, I expect City to be up there with Liverpool, challenging for the title this season. I do believe that, you know. And if they get Rodrigo through the door, you know, why can't that happen? You know, so yeah, one to watch, man. But definitely City. But again, guys, let me know what you think. Do you think City will challenge Liverpool, or do you think the challenge might come from elsewhere? Because I believe City, for me, they're primed to do a madness this season. You know, and Pep's going to make sure that happens. You know, and as I said, if they get in Rodrigo, yeah, it's going to be it's going to put the whole league on notice, put it that way, because I think he's one of the best players in the world, easily. And he's going to take City up a level for me, you know. Moving on, Chelsea versus Palace, obviously Club World Cup champions. And for me, I think a lot of people are not really seeing Chelsea as title challengers. You know, even myself, I think third place is what they're cementing themselves at the moment. But why can't Chelsea challenge Liverpool and the City this season? I think for me, you know, the reason I'm not saying Chelsea are definite title challengers, because even though they've got a great team, you know, you look at the likes of Moises Caicedo, Cole Palmer. If Romeo Lavia can stay fit, you know, he's one of the best midfielders in the league. João Pedro's come in and done a mazza, you know. You've got Neto, you've got what's his name? William Esteval as well, the young superstar coming through. You know, they're trying to get Xavi Simons through the door. Bino Gittins has come in. They're trying to get Garnacho for some reason. Don't know why. Enzo Fernandez. I mean, there's pure quality there that they've already got. Cucurella at left back's probably one of the best left backs in Europe, I would say, 100%. Reece James, for me, if Reece James stays fit, there isn't a better right back in the world. I rate Reece James that highly. I think the only right back that can talk to him really is probably Achraf Hakimi. I think Reece James is that good. If he stays fit, he's the best right back in the world for me. They've been dealt a blow, obviously, to Levi Colwill, but for me, Colwill had a good season, but I don't think Colwill's their best defender. You got Badashile. They've just bought Yoro Hato. Again, Yoro Hato can cover at left back and he's a left centre back. Wesley Fofana, for me, Fofana's injury prone, but if Fofana can get back to the levels that he was showing, you've got one of the best defenders in the league, but it's an if, because obviously he does suffer a lot of injuries. You got Chalobah and Tosin, experienced, that can offer a lot to this Chelsea team. Their Achilles heel for me is Robert Sanchez, because although Sanchez had a good pre-season in the Club World Cup, the guy's hit and miss, and he worries me if you're a Chelsea fan, where he gets the ball to his feet and just takes forever to try and get rid of the ball. So, again, if they can improve in goal, obviously a certain Donnarumma, is available, then why not? I'd go as far and say this. If they was to get Donnarumma, I'd say with what Chelsea have already, I'd make them title challengers. I think Donnarumma changes them from, for me, third place to becoming title challengers if he does make the move to Chelsea. But again, as we spoke about already, they've got Mike Penders on loan at Strasbourg, and he's rated very highly. They're looking at him as the next Thibaut Courtois. But if they was to get in Donnarumma, I think Donnarumma takes them from third place to battling Chelsea, to battling Man City or Liverpool for the title, and it's either one of them three for me. That's what I would say. But I'm just surprised they haven't gone for a world beater right now to go and play that left-hand side. The fact they're looking at Garnacho, which is music to my ears, as he's at Man United right now, and if we get rid of him, then all good. But the fact that they haven't gone for an absolute world beater in that position, which is why I'm not saying they're going to be up there. But Xavi Simons, for me, is a very good player, so obviously they're looking at him as the one that they're going to get in. But if they get Donnarumma, as I say, I think Donnarumma and Xavi Simons together with what they've got, I think that possibly makes them with Liverpool and City for me, Crystal Palace, obviously just winning the Community Shield, they've got a top manager in Oliver Glasner, I think if anyone doesn't know about Oliver Glasner, Glasner is, won a Europa League title with Eintracht Frankfurt. So the guy's got pedigree already. And him coming to Palace, he's taken Palace up a level. He's very good tactically. The way he sets his teams up as well. And not just mentioning that, they've got some dangerous players in their team. I keep saying this, and again, if Eze stays, he's going to be a massive player for them. But you think of Mark Guehi at the back, again, he's going to stay to the end of the season, and possibly leave on a free. But if he stays there, his partnership with Maxence Lacroix, who's a physical and quick defender, which is very, very good for them. You look at them too. You look at the likes of Daniel Munoz, again, very underrated at right wing back. Then you look at Tyreek Mitchell, at left wing back. And they've just brought in Borna Sosa as well from Ajax. Then you look at midfield, you've got Daichi Kamada. You've got Adam Wharton for me, who's a future England international, a regular. And I can see Wharton as well. Wharton's definitely going to end up at, if it's not one of the big clubs in England, it's one of the big clubs in Europe, because he's that good. You can tell already, cultured midfielder, and he's primed to be going to the top. And then you look at Eze, Ismail Assar, Mateta. They've got some dangerous players in that team. And if they can keep all those players together, top 10 finish, why not? You know what I mean? And again, that would be a great achievement for Palace, because as I said, that top 10 is not going to be easy to predict, because there's a lot of teams that would be thinking that they have a shout of being in there. So yeah, I think they've got some very good players, man. And if they keep all them together, as I said, I think top 10 is definitely an achievement for them. How I see them getting on against Chelsea, again, it's a tough one because I think Chelsea win the game at home. I do think they win it at home, but it's not going to be easy. I think if Chelsea nick it 1-0, 2-1, I think that's a very good result because I think with Palace are going to go to many of the top teams and give them problems with the way that he sets up. And as I said, man, I think 2-1, 1-0 will be a very good result for Chelsea because I don't see a lot of the top teams around in the league. I don't see them sweeping past Palace easily. So I think Chelsea at home, yeah, 1-0, 2-1. But that's providing if they keep the majority of their team. I think if Eze goes, I think Guehi's probably going to stay now. Mateta the same. Sarr the same. Wharton. I think if they let go of Eze, that takes their quality down a lot for me. But I still think they give Chelsea problems. But yeah, I'm going to say 1-0, 2-1 to Chelsea. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually draw the game, Palace, because they've got some good players there, man. So, guys, come on, 24 of you, 19 likes. Let's smash the like button, guys, if you're enjoying the content. Premier League preview. And again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you do as well. Moving on, Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. Again, Nottingham Forest for me, again, they're another team that finished in the top half. Where did they finish? I think it might have been, was it 7th they finished? 7th or 8th? One or two? And I think they'll probably be looking at, finishing around them places again. Obviously lost Anthony Elanga to Newcastle, but I look at Morgan Gibbs-White, again, he was meant to be going to Tottenham before Marinakis just told him he ain't going anywhere. And now he's signed a new contract, new 3-year contract. Obviously he's their vice captain. I wonder if they make him their captain this season as a show of faith in him, because I think their captain, who is Ryan Yates, I don't know if he's going to be playing regularly. So they might make Gibbs-White the captain. I think Forest, they've just been linked with Arnaud Calimawendo I think he's at Lens in France, trying to get him as a striker in through the door. They're trying to get in James McAtee. I can't remember who else they've actually signed, but I think Murillo and Milenkovic, I think their partnership again is going to be key. I like Murillo. I think Murillo's a very good defender, left-footed centre-back. I think he goes on a level this season. They've got Ola Aina at right-back, again, who's a very good defender. They've got Nico Williams at left-back. I wonder if they actually go out and get an actual left-back, left-footed one. But yeah, listen, I think they'll be looking at finishing in the top half again. Losing Elanga, will be a miss to them because obviously in the transition, he was a problem for other teams. But Nuno, I think he's done a very good job with Forest. Obviously they're going to be in the Europa League as well, so they're going to have a lot of football to contend with. So yeah, I think if they get a few more players in through the window, I think they'll have a decent season. But I'm not sure if they finish in the top 8, top 10. I'm not too sure. But again, man, they've got the basis of a good team that they had from last season. Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood. You look at midfield, they've got, what's his name? Forgot his name now. Elliot Anderson. I think he had a very good season last season, and for England winning the European Championships as well. He was very good. I think he actually got into the team of the tournament. They sold the Brazilian Danilo back to Brazil. I think he might have gone, but he was very good. I think he had an injury, left-footed central midfielder. But again, I think they'll bring in a few more players, and I think we'll have to look at how these guys get integrated into the team. Brentford, as we know, losing Brian Mbeumo. Obviously, looking at Johan Vissa once out as well. I think if they lose those two, You know, you're losing, what, 40 league goals from last season, you know, which was the majority of their goals from last season, you know. So I think there'll be a massive miss. Again, they're trying to get Dango Utara to replace Mbeumo. I think if they lose Vissa, again, they're going to have to definitely go out and get a striker. I haven't seen any links really to any strikers from them. Do I think Vissa goes? I think Vissa does go. You know, I think they actually part ways with him. I think Vissa's shown that he wants to go, and I think he does go get his move in the end. They got Kevin Schade. Schade had a very good season with Mbeumo and with Vissa. You know, obviously got new manager in Keith Andrews, ex player for West Brom, Irish international as well. So yeah, I think Brentford is difficult because they've lost their captain Christian Norgard and obviously Thomas Frank. So it's going to be a difficult season. Jordan Henderson's coming, which will help to have that leadership in their team. But yeah, I can see it being a bit of a difficult season, you know, because when you're losing Mbeumo and if Vissa goes and Norgard and your manager, that's going to be definitely hard to replace. But I think, yeah, Brentford, bottom half finish. I don't see them getting relegated, but yeah, they're going to be a bottom half team for me this season. How can I see it going? Forest, Brentford. I think Forest at home, and with what Brentford have lost, you know, Keith Andrews, obviously his first game of the season. I think you'd have to say Forest actually nick it for me. I think Forest win that 2-1, I'd say. I think 2-1. It's probably a fair result, you know. Two more games, guys, to go through. And obviously, I'll get back to your questions as well. But big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. Again, guys, if you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do. Obviously, it helps the channel to be seen by more people. So we got 21 likes at the moment. Let's at least try and hit 30. So if you're in there, guys, smash the like button. And as always, make sure you sub to the channel as well. And give me your questions and your comments. And as I said, I'll definitely get back to your questions after. Got two more teams to go through. Obviously, Monday football, you know, we've got Leeds versus Everton. You know, Everton, for me, I think Everton will have a decent season. You know, I think pre-season was poor for them. I think they lost the majority of their games. But you think of Jack Grealish coming into the team now, you know, taking the number 18 from his previous idols of Wayne Rooney and Paul Gascoigne. You know, Grealish, for me, be playing at 10 as well. And I think Grealish, Iliman, NDI, they're obviously trying to get a right winger as well. Can't remember who else they were linked with. Oh, they were linked with Tyler Dibbling. You know, I think there's someone else they're linked with. But you can see Everton moving to that new stadium. You know, they're trying to get some real quality into their team. You know, and if they was to get Dibbling and Grealish and NDI, do you know what? That's actually quite an exciting attack. You know, you got Beto up top as well. And I think Grealish will make Beto a better player. Because Grealish can carry the ball. You know, he can slide the ball through as well, through the eye of a needle. And as I said, man, I think he's going to help the strikers there. You know, you got, is it the new striker as well? Is it Thierry? I thought his name from Villarreal. I forgot his last name that they signed. But yeah, they've got some players, they're new players that they want to integrate to the team. You know, Pickford in goal, Tarkowski at the back with Brampthwaite. You know, Mikalenko at left back. I think Seamus Coleman's still there, you know, at right back. And you got Shane O'Brien as well. Just a gay in midfield. James Garner. So, yeah, they got some decent players. But I think the key to it is going to be Jack Grealish. Guys, bear me 1 minute. Someone at the door again.
Gavin,
How you doing, okay?
this guy's collapsed out here. I think he's been drinking. The guy's trying to get him in the van. I don't know what to do. I can't help him.
Okay,
I know you're young and strong.
give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Guys, listen, bear me just 1 minute because situations just unfolded. Guys, bear me 1 minute, man. Some madness. I'll let you guys know in a minute. If you can just bear with me, give me about a couple of minutes because some madness just unfolded. I'll let you guys know. Big up. Guys, apologies for that. Just had a madness, sorry, outside. So yeah, everything's good. So one of my neighbors just actually collapsed on the floor. Guys, this is why, man, you need to stop drinking. So yeah, one of my neighbors is a bit drunk, so obviously he collapsed on the road. So I had to just help him. Me and someone else had to just help him into his house. But yeah, guys, apologies for that, man. Yeah, listen, part of me was thinking, look, I'm on a stream, I'm on the live stream, but again, there's some things that are a bit more important. So yeah, one of my neighbors just absolutely just actually collapsed. So had to help him back in. So but big up yourselves for staying through anyway. So Chief Herb says Grealish was your neighbor. Yeah, listen. In actual fact, man, he looked just like Jack Grealish, to be fair. But yeah, nah, he was yeah, he was struggling, man. But as I said, he's all right now. Just got him back into his house, and yeah, he's all good. But the funny thing is, it's like these things are unexpected. And when someone knocked on my door, I thought it might have been the post again, but or delivery. But the thing is, yeah, it just said he's collapsed on the road. And the funny thing is, right near my car, so you know, I didn't really want him going on my car. But yeah, no, I'm back now anyway. So we're gonna carry on. But big up yourselves. So yeah, speaking of Jack Grealish, going back to Everton. So yeah, he's gonna be the key for me. He's going to be the key for me this season for Everton. And I think if they can keep him fit, get him in that free role, you know, then, as I said, man, I think he's going to play his way back into contention for England. And again, it's World Cup year. So there's going to be a lot of players that are going to be having to have good seasons because competition is very high, especially in that England team as well. And I think with England, there are a few players that are certainties, whether they're good or not, good enough or not, but they're actually certainties. So the likes of Jack Grealish, he's going to need to definitely make sure that he's that he's someone that is firing for Everton, and I think he will do. Leeds United, you know, obviously come out from the Championship. Again, Leeds United for me are going to be a bit of a difficult team to predict because, I mean, I can't remember actually who they've actually brought in through the window, funny enough. Yeah, I can't actually remember what players they've brought through, but they've got Willie Janonto, Joel Pirro, what's his name? The captain, which is ex-Chelsea defender. I forgot his name now. Welsh international. If anyone knows his name, I forgot his name. Light-skinned guy, forgot his name. That's gonna bug me now. Chat, if you know his name, the captain, I forgot his name. Forgot his name. What's his name? That's gonna bug me. Welsh international, captain for Leeds. No, not Pascal Struijk. He's Dutch, not him. Oh, that's gonna bug me. What's his name? No, not Joe Rodon. He's yeah, Joe Rodon's Welsh, but he's their captain. Light skinned guy. You guys know who he is. I forgot his name. That's the one. Big up Jay. Ethan Ampadu. That's the one. So Ampadu ex-Chelsea. Obviously he's their captain. So I mean he'll be looking to have a big season. Ilan Melier in goal as well. So yeah, I think it's difficult to predict what they're gonna do because obviously in the championship, you know, they ran away with it really. But I think coming up, as we know, will be a different proposition. So yeah, I don't really know what to make of it because I can't actually remember the signings they've actually done. But I'm gonna say first game of the season, Leeds, Everton. I don't really know, you know. I don't really know. I think Everton haven't had a great pre-season, and maybe that might carry on. So I'm gonna say a draw. But if Jack Grealish reaches anything, the form that we know he can do, you know, why can't Everton win? Because I think Grealish is that good, and he can be a game changer easily. So yeah, I'm gonna say a draw though to be safe. As Chris and Mark says, 1-1. And then the last game, guys. Obviously Sunday night. You know, I'm going to be doing a live watch along as well. So again, make sure you guys come through for the live watch along. And it's going to be a big one. Manchester United versus Arsenal. So as I said, man, you know, it's going to be a massive game. And for me, Manchester United have it. For me, Man United have it all to prove this season because last season was unacceptable, you know, and you know, I like it when United are thrown into the deep end against one of the biggest teams in the country. And again, Arsenal will be looking at, you know, going there, taking all 3 points. But this is where we're going to see what Amorim is going to do because let's be honest with you, a lot of people were saying, you know, a pre-season's been good. I watched the whole of pre-season, and to be fair, it was underwhelming. I know United won the Super Cup, the summer series. But again, look at the teams that they were playing against. And again, none of it was convincing. So for me, I think I'm looking at United at least, you know, I think the minimum's a draw. You know, I'd love United to win, but a minimum's a draw for me. And if they can get a draw, then, you know, fair enough. Like, but it just means the next game against Fulham, you have to go to Fulham for 3 points. So as I mentioned yesterday, you know, I think Arsenal are going to come there, all guns blazing. You know, obviously they've got a few signings, whether we rate them or not. But I think Zubamendi is a good signing. You know, as I said before, I think the likes of Thomas Partey going and Zubamendi coming in, I don't know if that moves Arsenal on because you're losing Partey's physicality, but you're gaining Zubamendi's ball playing ability. Norgard for me, I think Norgard's is a good signing, but he's not a needle mover for me. He's someone that's going to play his role as part of the squad. Then you've got what's his name? Then you've got what's his name? Noni Madueke, which again, a lot of you know my thoughts on Madueke. A very strange signing, you know, but again, he's there. And what happens? Do they start him in this game? That's what's going to be interesting. If they don't start him in this game, then all of a sudden you have to look at, well, what was the point of that signing? You know? And then you got Victor Gyökeres again. I think it's going to be an interesting lineup from Arsenal because does Gyökeres start? Does Madueke start? The two new signings. Because obviously we know what their back five is going to be. Lewis Skelly, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, David Raya in goal. And then you've got Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Odegaard. I think from defence to midfield, their team's set. I think it's the wide areas Bukayo Saka's going to play as well. I think you're looking at left wing and striker because does Martinelli start? You know, by all counts, Martinelli had a good game against who they play? They beat 3-0. Was it Atletico Madrid? I think it might have been Atletico Madrid. So is he gonna start Martinelli? You know, is Kai Havertz gonna start, or is he gonna bring in Gyökeres? So again, all these things are what's gonna be on the horizon for Arteta. For me, Man United, as I said, the team that I would start is not the team he's going to start with. So what does he do with them? What does he do with his team? I think, as I said the other day, the team he starts with, you know, is going to be crucial because does he go attack Arsenal and, you know, force the pressure on them? Or does he sit back and wait for the counter? And I think if he sits back and waits for the counter, I just don't know if that's going to work, you know, because if Arsenal do get a goal, let's say, and United are sitting back, he's going to have to change his approach. And as we know, his substitutions are not good. So I just don't know. But I think personally he's going to play Onana in goal, back three, Lenny Yoro. I can see Harry Maguire playing. And I think Maguire might play to deal with Gyökeres' threat in the air if Gyökeres starts. But I'm gonna say I think he plays if the Ligt's not injured, I think he plays the Ligt right side centre back, Harry Maguire, and then Lenny Yoro left side centre back. I can see him doing something like that, or he might play Luke Shaw left side centre back, and then play the Ligt and Yoro if the Ligt's fit, you know. But I think one way or another, either Harry Maguire or Luke Shaw start that game. I'll be very surprised they don't. Mazraoui is not going to play. He hasn't played no pre-season. The two wing backs is going to play Dorgu, and he's going to. The thing is, he wants to play Dallo, but he's going to play Ahmad because he's going to risk backlash from the fans if he plays Dallo and Ahmad's on the bench. And then midfield, which is where it's going to be key because if he sits back, I can see him playing the midfield of Casemiro and Ugarte. Then he'll play Bruno in the 10, Mbeumo, and then Cunha at top. You know, he could do that. You know, and again, he could play Bruno, Ugarte in the midfield, and then play Cunha, Mbeumo, Sesko, or Mason Mount, Mbeumo, Cunha. Thing is, I don't think Sesko's starting. I think a lot of people think Sesko might start. I don't think Sesko's starting. I think Sesko's going to be on the bench. And then what he'll do, he'll use the fact that United are at home, new signing, hasn't played yet. And then if the game's at a stalemate, you know, I think he'll use the likes of Sesko as a kind of, you know, an enthusiasm for the fans to get behind the team if the game's at a stalemate. So I think he'll use the impact of Sesko from the bench. I can see him doing that. So just based on that, I think Cunha starts through the middle. And then he plays Bruno as a 10 and Mbeumo. You know, he could play Mason Mount as a left 10 and play Bruno and Ugarte. But I think he goes with something similar to that. And if he does, I'm just not too sure what happens because, yeah, it'd be concerning. But on the whole for that game, I'm going to say a draw. I think United and Arsenal draw this 2-2. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Yeah, I'm going to say 2-2 draw. Maybe 1-1. I know people are saying 1-1, but I'm going to say 2-2 draw, you know. And I think that might be fair, you know. But again, if United win the game, then they're going to give themselves a cushion. Because I think if United win the game against Fulham, you know, I'd accept a draw. But that means you've got to beat Burnley at home. But I think if United draw this game or lose this game, you have to beat Fulham and Burnley before you play City and Chelsea back to back. So again, he's got it all to do, man. but we'll have to wait and see. Guys, big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. I'm going to go through your chats, guys. Big up for staying through. There's quite a few chats, so I'm going to try and go through as many as I can. And again, listen, if you're in there and you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do. And again, make sure you give me your predictions and let me know. So, as I said, if I don't go through each and every one of your chat, apologies. But again, there's been quite a lot of it. So I'm going to go through the ones that I can see on there. Big up to Ammo as well, each and every time for coming through. Let's see. Yeah, big up to Agnes 14ish as well. So Lumi says, Gav, do you think Mount was a good player at Chelsea? How did I know you come out of Mason Mount, Lumi? To be fair, yeah, he was a decent player at Chelsea. But again, for the wages that was rumoured that he was asking for, Chelsea were never going to give him that because he isn't that level of player. Only a club like Man United, as dumb as they are, would give Mason Mount that sort of money, you know. But listen, Mason Mount, I think if you're looking at his career as a whole, he's been a decent player. But for the money that he's on and for what he's shown, nowhere near it. And again, he's a number 7 at Man United, an iconic number. He costs 60 mil and he's on 250k a week. So how does Amorim or any other manager justify Mason Mount getting game time at Man United? Because when everyone's fit, he doesn't start. He doesn't. So this is the problem. But I think next season, Man United part ways with Mason Mount. I think they part ways with him. Big up to Gonzo M. Farry, if you're still in the chat. So Gonzo says Newcastle should get Jackson from us quick. We need Javi to join the Mandem. Yeah, listen. Jackson, I think Jackson would actually do well at Newcastle. I think he would do well with the way they play. Because you got to look at Newcastle. Newcastle play very, very much on the transition. You know, you think of the pace of the likes of Elanga they've got there now. You look at, obviously, Isak's pace, Gordon's pace, Harvey Barnes' pace, Jacob Murphy. You know, they play on the transition, which is why they brought in Elanga. And if you get Jackson in, Jackson, you know, he complements that as well. So whether they go for him, you know, remains to be seen. But I think he'd actually do well there with how they play. Big up to Boxing Straight Talk. Says Newcastle are having big problems. Can't seem to sign anyone. And Isak is trying to force a way out. Yeah, as I said, the ball is in Newcastle's court, really, with Isak. You know, I think, as we know, Isak wants to join Liverpool, but Newcastle don't have to sell. So, again, this is going to run to the end of the summer, I believe. So we'll have to see what happens. But if Newcastle start making some signings, maybe they might free up the Isak thing. But at the moment, as it stands, I think, yeah, it's firmly in Newcastle's favour for me. Big up to Claire Stapleton as well, for staying in the chat. Big up. So Gag Addict says, will Arsenal potentially beat Liverpool in title race? Not for me. Not for me. I think personally, Arsenal are going to struggle to get into the top 4 for me this season. I know people might be saying, like, you're crazy, but I think Arsenal struggle to get into the top 4 because I'm looking at City, Liverpool, Man City. I'm looking at those 3 teams as definite teams to be in the top 3, which means Arsenal are battling against the likes of Newcastle. You know, if Man United get their act together and get Baleba through the door and probably another player, who's to say United couldn't? I don't believe they do it under this manager. But again, if the manager was to get sacked because he's not getting in the results and they bring someone in that changes the formation and you get a Baleba through the door and someone else, who's to say United couldn't be battling for that top 4? I think as it stands at the moment, it's unlikely, but things can change, you know. And then you've got the likes of Tottenham as well. Again, if they get the signings over through the door, Villa might fancy their chances. Again, there's a lot of things that could happen, you know. So to answer your question, I don't see Arsenal beating Liverpool into the title race. No way. Big up to Neuro. So Gag Addict says, do you think Salah can get top scorer this season in the Prem? I think Mo Salah's someone that, in terms of numbers, you don't bet against because he's been doing it season in, season out. So again, you can never bet against him getting numbers. I think the front runners are going to be the same ones, really. You know, you're looking at Erling Haaland, Salah, Isak. What happens to him? I think them guys you're looking at. You know, I think outsiders, João Pedro could be in the shout. Then you got people like Gyökeres, people talking about Sesko. Again, Sesko only got 13 goals in the Bundesliga last season. So it's unlikely. And then you got Gyökeres. Again, Gyökeres has come from the Portuguese league where he scored a lot of goals. But is that going to transition to the Premier League? Again, that remains to be seen. Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I think if I'm looking at one player as an outsider, possibly João Pedro. I think João Pedro is going to surprise a lot of people this season, you know. But I think that the front runners will be the usual suspects of Salah, Haaland, and possibly Isak as well, you know. But again, if someone else comes into it, that'd be great. But I think those three might be the favourites again. So to be honest, this is an unusual thought for me. I prefer Robbo over Kerkez because Robbo is trusted, but I hope Kerkez still gets a chance. Yeah, listen, I think Robertson, as we know, you know, he's obviously coming to the end part of his career, you would say. And this is why they brought Kerkez in, someone that is a left back, left wing back, you know, and he's on the rise, you know what I mean? So Kerkez is eventually going to replace Robertson. Robertson's got the experience again. But I think as the season goes on, you're going to see Kerkez hold his own in his position because he's actually a very good left back. So, yeah, I can see that happening. Right, guys, come on. We've got 25 of you at the moment and 25 likes. Let's at least hit 30 likes, guys. So smash the like button if you haven't done so already. And as always, keep your comments coming through and I will get back to your comments, guys. Chrism Ark says, who's West Ham's best goalie? Who have you got in? So you got, Mads Hermansen's coming, and you've got Alphonse Areola. To be fair, Mads Hermansen's actually quite a good keeper, and you have to believe that if he's been brought in, you know, at 18 million, I think there was a stat going around that I can't remember what stat it was, but I think he tops it. There was a mad stat going around for a team that got relegated. I think he was at the top somewhere. Can't remember what it was. But he's actually a very good ball-playing goalkeeper as well. So, and to be honest with you, Alphonse Areola, I watched a pre-season game that West Ham played against United, and he was at fault for both the goals. You know, lack of composure when he bundled into Aiden Heaven for the penalty, and then the pass out to, I can't remember who it was that got caught, which, again, was poor. So, maybe Hermansen is going to be the number one for them. I mean, if you're spending 18 million, you know, then I think you have to think that he's going to be above Areola. Fabianski's not at West Ham no more. He's gone now. Yeah, big up to Exedra. Big up, bro, each and every time. Let's see. So, big up to JKM, says, Gav, will Gyökeres score 15 plus goals this season? Well, to be honest with you, he's going to have to. If Arsenal want to have a good season, I said this season, if Gyökeres has come in with all the hype, and, you know, a lot of Man United fans wanted Gyökeres. I didn't want Gyökeres personally, but a lot of United fans wanted Gyökeres, and because of his goal scoring, you know. Again, he's at Arsenal now. I think Gyökeres, his first season, I'm looking at a minimum 20 league goals. I think that's not too much to ask from because Arsenal create chances. You know, we've been told he's a serial goal scorer. So I'm gonna say Gyökeres 20 plus minimum league goals this season. And I think if he gets 20 plus goals this season, league goals, then I think he's had a good season. And I think you'd have to say that Arsenal must be somewhere near the top if he's getting 20 league goals. Does he get that? I'm not sure at the moment. I'm not sure. But I think he's going to need to get it, put it that way, you know. But big up JKM. Big up to Chief ERB, says Arsenal will challenge Liverpool. Don't know about that. But again, Arteta's got it all to prove. Big up to Wayne Griffins each and every time. Big up, Wayne. Big up to Exploding Godzilla as well. Mad name. So Chief Herb says, what team you support? I'm pretty sure one of my mods have answered it already. But I'm a Man United supporter, and I also like Barcelona as well. So Crawley Eagle says, Gav, test your knowledge. Can you name 3 players that have played for both Palace and United? Oh, that's easy. So Wilfred Zaha is one, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and the other one is Zaha, Wan-Bissaka, and Dean Henderson. Yeah. So Zaha, Wan-Bissaka, Dean Henderson. Former Man United, former Palace. Big up Crawley Eagle. Chief Herb says Fraser Campbell, Zaha, Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Fraser Campbell, man, ex-Man United player. But someone didn't. I wonder if someone said Dean Henderson. Yeah, big up to Jay, says Nathan Fraser. Yeah, that's wrestling. Yeah, WWE. Big up to Best Two Locks. So Chief Herb says Don Robbie said they win in the treble. Well, listen, if he said that, then yeah, obviously he needs to get himself checked. I don't believe he said that. I don't think any Arsenal fan is that dumb enough to say that. So yeah, we'll have to just ignore that one. But as I said, for me, and again, if you're an Arsenal fan, yeah, let me know in the chat. But Arsenal have to win a Champions League or a league title. They've gone past an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup with the money that's been spent on that team and how long Arteta's been there. I think an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup won't be good enough. I think a Champions League or a league title is what Arsenal have to be aiming for, because if you're an Arsenal fan and you win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup but don't win any one of the big trophies, you know, would you be content with Arteta still staying there? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's good enough. And that, again, will show the lowering of the standards. So for me, they've got to win a league title or a Premier League title or a Champions League for me, Arsenal, which I can't see happening. Big up to Niche Fan, says, as a United fan, we keep hearing culture is changing. It's all meaningless if the owners who should be taking fewer dividends to pay down the debt won't take fewer dividends. Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I hear that. Again, I'm not here to be talking about the finances of Man United, etc. You know, because that's not my expertise. You know, all I can control really is what I see on the pitch. You know, what I see, what certain players have been brought into the club, etc. But all these other things, just leave it down to the experts, because as long as my team is doing what's right on the pitch, you know, the best players are coming through the door, the manager's implementing a system to get the best out of them. That is literally all I care about, you know, because let's be honest, if Man United are winning, no one cares about the dividends and all this kind of stuff. So let's leave it to the experts to kind of deal with that. I'm just more interested in what is going on the pitch, and what I'm seeing so far is not good enough. So that's what I want to concentrate on. But big up to Niche Fan. So Chief Herb says madness unfolded. Beleba. I'm not quite sure what that means. What has there been news on Beleba? So Zedra says, has Rashford crashed his Ferrari? I don't know. I mean, I've not heard anything. I've not seen anything. You know, there's been nothing that's come up on. There's been nothing that's come up on. Yeah, there's been nothing that's come up on Sky Sports News. So yeah, I've not seen nothing. Big up Exedra, just seen that one. Didn't know the studio was in Everton, Gav. Yeah, big up, man. So Sham says they collapsed because I said Arsenal won't win the league. Yeah, listen, I think when he wakes up, I might ask him that, to be fair, you know, because maybe he was just as surprised as us. So Red Licted says, Gav, what shoes are you wearing? I'm not, man. I'm wearing my slippers. I'm wearing my slippers, man. When I'm doing my stream, you know, it's got to be comfortability. So yeah, slippers on, and that's how it is. Yeah. So big up to Buckwheat, says Amarim is not the man to take Manchester United forward. 100% facts. Listen, I don't disagree with that. Not one bit. Not one bit. As I said, you know, I'm all for giving managers the chance to see if they can implement something, you know, and take the team forward. But I've seen too much to know that this manager, this coach, is not the guy. Because the first things are first. We was told he was brought in because he's a very good coach. He ain't coached anything. If anything, this team has gone backwards, you know. And as I said, first 5 games we're going to see, you know, better players have been brought in, which is what a lot of these fans kept asking for. There's no excuses now because the players that have been brought in as well are players for now. You know, you're bringing in Cunha, Mbuemo for now. If Baleba comes in for now, you know, Sesko for now, really, you would say. So there's no excuses. So we have to wait and see what happens first 5 games of the season. And if he doesn't get positive results, again, he's going to be under pressure, and rightfully so. But he's not the man for me. You know, he's not. Definitely not. And do I believe he makes it to the end of the season? I don't. I think he's got 5 to 10 games to show what's happened. Because I do believe Ineos are not going to take any prisoners. I think they will pull the plug if he's not putting up any trees. And rightfully so. Big up to Mark Harris. Says, tired of favourites FC. Bruno Dallo, want to see Kone play. Yeah, listen, I can't fault you, Mark, because the thing is, Ruben Amorim's downfall is going to be Bruno Fernandes and Dallo, because they're his compatriots. So he's going to shoehorn these guys into the team. And if you look at directly the plays, the places that these players play, they're basically key in terms of the positions. So as we know, Man United, you know, they build up the wing backs are key. The wing backs are key in build up, you know. So the thing is, if he plays Dallo, who we know isn't good enough to play as a wing back in this system, it's going to mean he's going to leave the likes of Dorgu or Ahmad out the team. Now, Ahmad's a fan favourite, and Ahmad's one of United's best players. And as much as I can't stand see him playing as a wing back, because him playing as a wing back is an absolute joke. Let's be honest. But because Mbuemo's there now, like, there's no point complaining, because he's not going to play Mbuemo wing back to play Ahmad in the 10. So this formation is a problem, because we're having to watch Ahmad play wing back. So the fact of the matter is, if he plays Dallo and drops Dorgu, Dorgu's had a very good pre-season, and Dorgu deserves to start. Now, if you drop one of them two for Dallo, there's issues. Not to mention, if he keeps shoehorning Bruno into midfield, against the lesser teams, he might get away with it. Against the better teams, you're going to find very quickly United are going to come unstuck. So his love for Bruno and Dalot is going to be his downfall at the end for me. Because you can't keep shoehorning these players into the team at the expense of others and build a cohesive team because you want to play your compatriots. And as I said, it's going to be his downfall. And then you got the likes of Kone, who I think's got a lot of potential. To think that Kone didn't get 1 minute in pre-season and you don't want to send him out on loan, I mean, doesn't make any sense, you know. And again, where's he going to get his game time, Kone? You know, he's got a lot of potential. I'd at least like to see him, you know, play some, get some game time. But again, it's crazy, man. He didn't get not 1 minute. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens on that one. But yeah, as I said, his downfall is going to be his favourites. And as I said, Bruno and Dalot are two of them. So we'll have to wait and see what he does. Because he's going to be under pressure. Especially if Baleba comes in, he has a conundrum with Bruno. Because you're going to have, if Bruno's going to play, because the reason I want Baleba coming in is because Baleba has to play with the money you're spent on him and obviously his quality. So if he plays, he's got a definite position in the team, which means if you want to play Bruno as one of the two in midfield, you're going to leave 350k Casemiro on the bench. Ugarte costs 60 mil. He'll be on the bench. Kobe Mino's an academy product. Where's he going to figure in? And if you play Bruno in the 10, it means you're playing Cunha up top. But that means you've got Sesko and Xerxes on the bench. And then, yeah, Mason Mount as well. He costs 60 mil, number 7, 250. So the manager's got a massive problem if he's going to shoehorn Bruno into this team where you're going to have other players on a lot of money, you know, or with iconic numbers on their back on the bench because you're too busy trying to shoehorn Bruno in. Again, this is one to watch, guys. This is one to watch. Yeah, big up Sham, man. AstroTurf boots at all times. So Jacob, Fatu and Dom look sick, you know. Jacob, Fatu and Dom. Who's Dom? Who's Dom? I don't know who Dom is. So Chief Herb says, world-class Luke Shaw starting. Well, yeah, listen, if Luke Shaw's world-class, man, then let's stop watching football because Luke Shaw's not world-class, man. I'll tell you that for free. You know, on his day, he's a very, very good player, but the guy's been there almost a decade and spent half his time out. So, as I said, man, I'm just waiting for him to get injured again because it's going to happen, you know. Big up to Dirty Greatness, says he supports Chelsea. Big up to Sham. So Sham says, Lumi hasn't commented for ages. Has she gone to look for Mount? Yeah, listen, I was actually thinking about that, to be fair. You know what I mean? The amount of props she's doing for Mason Mount, who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe she's trying to find out where he lives to go and get a shirt signed or something, man. Because that Mount prop that she's doing is crazy, man. I've never seen someone big up Mason Mount the way that she does. And you know, let's not forget he's playing for a rival club, you know. But yeah, Mason Mount, man. That's Lumi's guy, man. That's Lumi's guy. Don't know why, but so Chief Herb says Jackson and Hoyland combo. Come take it, you know. Come and take it, you Jordis. Yeah, listen. Hoyland, I don't care where he goes. Just get him out of my club. Just get him out of there because that guy's a disgrace, man. 72 mil and 4 league goals. Nah, that ain't on. Not to mention he has no link play, nothing. Just get him out of here. I don't think Newcastle sign him, by the way. You know, I think everything's pointing towards AC Milan, but again, AC Milan want a loan deal. So, yeah. So, Finian Kimatai says, I think Man U will beat Arsenal. Arteta might lose his job this season. Do you know what? The way that these Arsenal fans are deluded, I just don't know if he does, because, like, I'm never going to stop saying this. Arteta should have gone about 3 years ago. He should have. But they've kept him on. And even if Arteta doesn't win nothing this season, can you be certain that he actually goes? Because this fan base doesn't make any sense. Again, it's not everyone, because there are a lot of fans out there that are switched on. But the fact that Arteta is still there, you know what I mean, doesn't make any sense. But again, Champions League or League is what needs to be targeted by Arsenal. And if they don't win that, I think his position for me becomes untenable. So who knows? Yeah, I see that already, Chief Ferb. A fan burning Isak's shirt. Yeah, I see that. So Zedra reckons in order: City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. Yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that's quite realistic. You know, I'd love United to be somewhere in there, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. You know, I think that's quite fair, to be honest with you. Rago Gaming says Gyökeres will flop. Well, we'll see first game if he starts. You know, see what he's got. Yeah, big up to Chief Herb, says Hugo Ekatike is one to watch. Trust. Yeah, listen, Ekatike is a very good player. When I'm saying top goal scorer, I think if Isak goes Liverpool, then Ekatike for me won't get top goal scorer, because I think Ekatike would have to operate in one of the wider positions. But I think if he gets chances, you know, he'll score goals. And guys, let's not forget as well, Ekatike used to be at PSG. You know, he was at Reims, then went to PSG, then from PSG to Eintracht Frankfurt. So he's got pedigree, Ekatike. You know, and he's gonna be a regular in the squad for France as well moving forwards. But he's a very good player. Big up to Daniela. Guys, come on, we got 27 likes. We're gonna wrap up in a little bit. So if you haven't smashed the like button, just smash the like button. Of course, makes it helps the channel to grow. And again, make sure you sub as well. Big up yourselves. David McKenzie says Isak to Liverpool. Yeah, possibly. But again, as I mentioned before, it's all in Newcastle's power. Big up to Xinks as well. Yeah, big up to Chief Herb. So Undefeated says, where do you think United will finish this season? I think as it stands right now, with the players that's been brought in, I'm expecting between top 10 and top 8 as it stands right now. If Baleba comes in, I'm going to say minimum top 6. Minimum. But again, it's not going to be under this manager. So the manager's the key for me, because I don't think he's good enough. But I think as it stands right now, between top 10 and top 8, that's a minimum. If you bring in Baleba, minimum top 6. Minimum. I expect United to be a minimum top 6 and competing to try and get into the Champions League. That's if Baleba comes, which I think he will. Big up to Lee NFFC, says, how you doing, bro? Forest fans here, just hope we can replicate last season, bro. Yeah, listen, man. I think it's going to be a tough season. You know, I do think they've got something to build on, Nottingham Forest. But I think in terms of, you know, in terms of Europa League places, I'm not too sure, you know, because I know they're trying to bring in some more players. But I think this season is going to be tough, man, because there's a lot of teams that have done a lot of business, and they're going to fancy themselves being, again, amongst the top 10, top 8. But I think Nottingham Forest, man, if they get a top half finish or even just below top half, I'd still count that as a good season because it's gonna be a tough season. You know, I think predicting the top 10 is difficult. So, but yeah, big up, man, for coming through anyway. Yeah, I spoke about the Super Cup already, Tottenham. So big up to Ali Cater says, would you rather go with Thiago over Delap in the striking position this season? Who's Thiago? Thiago? They haven't got no one called Thiago. So Ghost Nectar says Amorim needs to sell Maguire, Onana, and Shaw. I wouldn't disagree, but it's not going to happen. Not this season, anyway. Simon Ebank says you're crazy. What can he do with those shit players? Who's that? Simon Ebanks. You're crazy. What can he do with those shit players? Simon, give us some context on that. Top 10 says we cannot rely on Casemiro and Ugarte. I agree. Casemiro's experience will be key, you know, but if this manager thinks he's going to play Casemiro as a pressing man-for-man in midfield, then you're going to expose Casemiro because that's not his game. Ugarte, I don't rate, you know, in possession, he's poor. He's just someone that just wins the ball and gives it to the better players. But is this what Man United has become now? You know, Dalot has got to be benched. I agree. You know, if he's a bench option, it's not too bad. But in this system, he can't be playing as one of the wing-backs. You know, he's better as a right-sided defender for me in this system. So Ghost Nectar says, nah, brother. The destroyers of this club are Maguire, Casemiro, Onana, Højlund, and Luke Shaw. We don't have a proper centre-back. The midfield is a shambles. The goalkeeper is a scammer. I disagree with that. Ghost Nectar, I'll tell you the problems with this team. Yeah. It is Bruno Fernandes. Well, when I say the destroyers of the club, yeah, I'm gonna change it. The problems in this team, players that need to be moved on, you know, are people like Bruno Fernandes, Rasmus Højlund, Alejandro Garnacho, Luke Shaw. Obviously Rashford's out on loan. I'd say them five. Them five, definitely. Mason Mount, I think I mentioned as well. And these guys need to be moved on all for different reasons. Mason Mount's on 250k a week. Number 7, iconic number. Costs 60 million. Doesn't have a starting place in this team. Bruno Fernandes is ill-disciplined in midfield. The man just shoehorned him in. Has a bad attitude, you know. And he's someone that if United want to move forward and do anything of note, he can't be at the hub of it. Luke Shaw, you know, he's been there for almost a decade. He's on 190 a week and spends half his time injured, you know, and he signals mediocrity in this fan base as well. He's another one. Who else is there? Rashford, we've spoken about Rashford before. You know, Rashford should have been gone a couple of seasons ago. He's on loan, so that's a different story. Rasmus Højlund costs 72 million, 4 league goals, arguably the worst striker in the league. Offers absolutely nothing to this Man United team, you know. Alejandro Garnacho, stinking attitude, you know, was never good enough in the first place, you know, and obviously he's angling for moves to other teams. So those guys, to me, are the core reasons. Then we go into the likes of Manuel Ugarte. Ugarte, for me, isn't good enough. You know, if he's a squad player, you know, that comes on to put fires out in certain games, then fair enough. But for me, isn't good enough. Then we look at Onana. Again, hasn't had a great season. But if a world-class goalkeeper comes in like a Donnarumma, then fair enough, you know. Maguire, for me, is a backup centre-back. If he remains a backup centre-back, I'm not too fussed until you move him on in the next season. Casemiro is going to be gone end of the season. Obviously, higher wage, but an absolute legend of the game. So those guys, first and foremost, for me, are the problems. You know. Big up to Stratos Holovas. Holovas, I remember that name. That's an ex left back. Greek, is he Greek defender? Jose Holovas used to be at Watford. I think he was. Yeah, he's at Watford. Says, watch Panathinaikos FC, bro. Better than Man United. Listen, maybe at the moment, I don't know, but in the future, my faith is with United. Oh, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. I thought that was him. But what's that got to do with Jacob Fatu? Big up to Josh Williams. Says, who do you support, big man? Man United, and I like Barcelona as well. Big up to Philly L4. Says, Shaw is like Gomez at Liverpool. 10 years at the club, half a year on pitch. Yeah, listen, injuries are a massive issue, isn't it? That's the thing. But yeah, let's hope Luke Shaw, man, it's his last season. Put it that way. Yeah, Zedra, I agree, bro. Maguire does have to go, but again, at this moment in time, if he's a backup defender, then it is what it is. Again, the thing with Maguire, like this three at the back system is making Maguire have a career still at United, which again is just stupid. But why United keep persisting with this formation is a problem in itself, because there's certain players that have to play out of position or not play at all because this manager wants to play this 3-4-2-1. So I just can't wait for a manager to come in and scrap this system. So Jiggy481 says Marmoush and Ekatike will be in the top 5 scorers this season. Do you know what? It's not a bad bet. You know what I mean? It's not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet. Right, guys, come on. Need 2 more to get 30 likes. So as soon as we get the 30 likes, we're going to wrap up. But big up yourselves for coming through. So Premier League preview. As I said, man, opening fixture tomorrow. Obviously, Liverpool versus Bournemouth, kicking it off. And obviously got the Saturday games and then the big one on Sunday, Man United and Arsenal. So, yeah, listen, looking forward to it, man. Obviously, thank God the Premier League's back now. So, yeah, even more content coming your way, guys. So, again, if you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do. We got 28 likes. Let's at least get 30 before we wrap up. And again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you do, guys. Big up yourselves. I'm going to go through a few more of your questions, so keep them coming in or your comments. And then we're going to wrap up, guys. But let's try and hit the 30 likes as well. Yeah, so Liverpool have signed Giovanni Leone from, I believe it's Parma. So, yeah, he's one for the future. But they're looking at him, I think, as being one of the eventual replacements for Virgil van Dijk. So, yeah. So Philly L4 saying Leone will be the Quansah in the squad, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably quite obvious. I mean, he's very inexperienced as well. So, but again, I think it's still a bit concerning that they haven't gone and got, a recognised defender, and I think this might be their problem, because it's quite obvious that the favoured partnership is Konate and Van Dijk. And even with the World Cup coming up, Mark Guehi Why would he want to go and sit on the bench when, you know, he's got a very good chance of being the starting centre back for England? You know, so yeah, it's one to think about. But I think if they go into the season with Konate, Van Dijk, and then they get this Leone, who is still relatively unproven, again, all it takes is for an injury to Van Dijk or Konate, and then you're having to bring up the likes of Joe Gomez and Leone. And again, let's say worse comes to worse, you know, and Van Dijk and Konate both get injured, and then you're relying on Leone and Joe Gomez as your two centre backs, as your two centre backs. Can you be confident that's going to take you anywhere? This is the thing. So yeah, it's one to watch out for. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. Big up to you, boy, just coming through. Obviously, been going for what, about an hour and a half, I'd say. So guys, if you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do. And as always, make sure you sub to the channel. And obviously, guys, check out my other content as well. You know, channel's growing rapidly. So obviously, thank you to you guys for coming through and contributing. I think next week, guys, I should have something come out as well, which is a stream I done, a sit down podcast. You know, just a bit something a bit different. You know, so you guys might find that interesting. So yeah, I'm just waiting for that to come out. So I'll let you know. I'll let you guys know when that's due to come out. But yeah, no, big up to all the mods each and every time. Big up to all the newcomers as well. As I said, this channel's growing, guys, and it's thanks to you guys as well for you know, showing your support, and it's much appreciated. I should be back. What's tomorrow? Friday. I should be back tomorrow morning, 11:30. I won't be back later tonight. A bit busy tonight. But yeah, back tomorrow morning, and hopefully there's some more news dropping. Hopefully United make some progress on the Carlos Baleba. You know, hopefully Rasmus Højlund gets out the door and Garnacho as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man. But yeah, good stream, guys. Great stream. As I say, appreciate you guys coming through. But yeah, Premier League kicks off tomorrow. Liverpool and Bournemouth. So yeah, we'll try and see that game. And then obviously the games on Saturday, and then the big one. As I said, guys, I'm doing a live watch along for the Man United Arsenal game. So I will be scheduling that. So yeah, make sure you guys keep an eye on when I've scheduled that. So keep the notifications on. And as I said, appreciate you guys each and every time for coming through and contributing to the channel. So yeah, as I said, I won't be back live tonight. I won't be. But yeah, if anything drops tonight, then we'll be going live tomorrow, same time at 11:30. So yeah, big up yourselves, guys, each and every time. And I'm going to catch you in a bit. Take it easy.